Hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. Thank you so much for coming back to listen to more of Sara's War. If you would like to follow Brenda's Books online, I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I hope you have listened to the previous chapters. Today we are on Chapter 20, which is called Lucy. Here we go. Other than the bumpy roads and occasional potholes, the ride to the docks is completely comfortable. Jack and I chat easily about the ball and some of the wild dancing we saw, the break dancers, the moonwalkers, and the rest of us. We both roar with laughter as we relate different stories of body surfers and people who were so drunk with euphoria that their heads collided as they jumped up and down. The Hummer's steady speed slows drastically when its wheels start to plow over the sandy beach. "But you were the most incredible one tonight," I report, as Jack opens my door to let me out of the Hummer. An instant gush of ocean wind blows across my face. "That's overstating things," Jack declares, as he moves to lift me out of my seat. "I can do this," I say quickly. Jack backs away and opens the door wide. I want to just jump out like Jack did, but I know I will probably break my ankles landing in the sand with these shoes. In vain, I try to reach my foot down to the ground. I am absolutely too short for this. I glance at Jack, who seems to be making a point to look at my face. "Maybe just a hand," I suggest. Jack grips his hand in mine. Eventually, I get to the position where I can hop down with his support. Jack slams the heavy door behind me. "I thought about putting an extra step on," he tells me, "but I didn't think I would ever have a use for it. Whenever I have a private ride with me, I usually just make him jump up with 2 feet together," Jack says, sarcastic. I grin at that. Suddenly, I realize I'm still holding his hand. I loosen my fingers to let go, but he squeezes my hand tighter and clasps it with his other one. I look up to read his eyes. He stares back into mine without saying a word. My heart accelerates and I'm afraid to breathe. We stand like this for a long moment. Then slowly, Jack releases one hand and leads me with the other toward the docks. This is a new feeling, just holding hands. It's so juvenile, but exciting too. It holds a promise for something more. The ocean waves crash against the seashore. I love this sound. It relaxes my entire body. Memories of trips to California with Ryan come back to me. We would come to the beach to see the sunrise, play volleyball all morning, which both of us were terrible at, and lie out in the sun all afternoon, talking and sipping sodas. This setting is quite different, however. The ocean looks black in the darkness, adding to its mystery. The sand is grainier here, and I have to really watch my step to keep from rolling an ankle. I gaze out to the shoreline where several narrow wooden docks are jutting out. Attached to them are simple rowboats and canoes, with American flags painted on their sides. They rock and knock against the docks in a sporadic rhythm. I can hear the oars tied up inside them tapping with the wind. "I expected the Navy boats to be here," I announce as we reach one of the docks. "These are our emergency boats," Jack explains. "The main waterfront is over there," he says, pointing with his arm to the left of us. I squint in the darkness to see an incredibly long pier some distance away. As I examine the space further, I'm able to make out the shapes of some Navy boats with their flags soaring high, as well as some surfaced submarines. The moonlight is such that I can almost see them bobbing up and down with the swells of the sea. "It's being used as the submarine base at the moment," Jack informs me. "Yes, I know. I hope Petty Officer Harrison recovers quickly so the issues can be resolved." I cringe mentally. Perhaps that wasn't the best subject to bring up, but I know Jack has been actively dealing with the problem. Jack hesitates a moment, then turns his head to look at me, his face carefully composed. "What issues are those?" "You know, the unknown enemy." His eyes bulge in open astonishment. "How do you know about that?" "General Granger told me," I say with a little caution. "He did?" he cries in dismay. I nod. He was very anxious about Harrison's condition, and somehow it all came out. I purse my lips. I shouldn't have spoken of it. I'm sorry. "Oh, no, it's all right," he soothes. Obviously, I would know about the situation, but I just can't believe he spilled that to you. I haven't told a soul and I never will, I promise. Jack glances at me and smiles. I know that, he says. Any new developments you can tell me about? No, not really. The Navy... Jack stops. Well, never mind about that. The Navy is falling apart, I declare. Jack gives me a worried look, then nods. The biggest thing right now is they really need the help of their submarines to detect enemy ships. I nod. I bet. Another puzzling thing is, the submarines of our own infernal unknown enemy don't even appear to be guarding an aircraft carrier. Really? That is strange, I say thoughtfully. And we've been able to identify all enemy planes? Yes. Interesting, I say slowly. Anyway, I'm surprised General Granger didn't tell me about your conversation. You were on a Special Forces mission, I remind him. Jack looks back out at the sea. That's true. How does that work for you anyway, being the Lieutenant Colonel and in Special Forces, I ask. Jack turns to glance at me again. I will tell you that, he says, his tone turning light. On our boat ride, he finishes with a smile. I grin. Oh, really? I ask a bit playfully. Yes, he declares, sounding more excited. We saunter a few feet down the dock and stop at a shiny blue square-shaped rowboat. This is Lucy, he tells me, pointing to the boat. What do you think? She's very nice, I reply. Jack smiles wide. She was my lifesaver in Hawaii 3 months ago, he confides. I raise my eyebrows in surprise. You were with the Navy when the attack occurred? Yes, he says simply. Wow, I breathe. I'm glad you're all right. Jack smiles at me again, then jumps on the boat's floor, causing it to rock back and forth in the water. He places one foot on the center seat until the boat settles down and is relatively steady. He holds out his hand to help me step in, then directs me to a white leather seat at the tip of the bow. He leans over the edge of the boat and quickly unties the vast square knot that's securing it to the dock. With one great heave, he pushes against the wharf, causing our vessel to float away from the shore. Stepping carefully, Jack makes his way to his own seat in the middle of the boat, facing me. He quickly grips the oars and begins rowing us out to sea at an incredible rate. Jack looks slightly behind him at the water in order to avoid a rather large floating log. I take the opportunity of his diversion to just sit and memorize him. Where did he get his strength? The way he is able to push against the ocean current with no visible effort is astounding. How did you get so strong? I blurt out. Jack focuses on me again, his eyes big with surprise at my sudden question. He smiles a small smile. Was it Special Forces that did it? Or is that why they recruited you? I wonder. Jack rows a couple more rounds before he answers. I suppose it's a little bit of both, he reasons. My dad always wanted me to be in Special Forces, so I was trained from a very young age. I served with them as a teenager. You made it in as a teenager? I say, flabbergasted. Jack grins at my astonishment. Yes, but it was ridiculous. I wasn't any good at it then. It was when we were at war with Sri Lanka. Like I said, my dad really pushed me in that direction. He was a father who actually didn't want me to have his job. And crazy enough, that's what I wanted. Not to be a general necessarily, but a commissioned officer. My dad wasn't happy about it. But he let me pursue my goals anyway, and I went on to get my college degree. However, when I reached the rank of major a few years later, some branches of the army were falling apart, or not functioning very well. Why was that? I interject. The economy and various reasons, he hedges. But one of those branches was Special Forces. They didn't have near enough people serving. This was at the time that the World War was being suspected, and the head superiors were growing very anxious and needed more spies. Jack pauses, a frown forming on his face. Anyway, after a lot of begging and reasoning on their part, I eventually gave in and resigned to rejoining Special Forces. Jack swallows hard. He's staring at the leather seat beside me, but seeing something else, very far away. So, I served actively with them until a little over a year ago, when I switched back to my original plan. However, I have agreed to still go on missions if there's a real need. Last month must have been one of those times, I say. For a brief moment, Jack's face holds a look of horror. Then his expression smooths and he rows harder. Yes, is all he says. Wow, You were promoted from major to lieutenant colonel in just over a year. That's incredible, Jack. Jack stops rowing for a moment, letting us drift with the waves. I don't think I have ever met anybody as complimentary as you are, he declares, which is remarkable considering you deserve more accolades than us all. I shake my head, trying to hide the heat that is inadvertently coming to my face. Jack looks right at me with that pulling gaze again. I'm serious, Sara, he says solemnly. Every time I think I've discovered your greatest talent, you go and do something else that amazes me. I can't help but smile at his praise. It's almost too good to be true coming from Lieutenant Colonel Jack Haskins. He peers out over the water, seeing somewhere else again. After you saved Harrison's life, I've just been in awe of you. I mean, it's incredible that you knew what to do, but even more incredible that you were brave enough to do it, especially since you hadn't done it before. He looks back up to meet my eyes again. There are soldiers who have been in the army for years who aren't that brave. They were probably drafted, I say inside my head. Wow, Jack, I'm not sure I deserve that much praise. I was just doing my job. Jack shakes his head and starts rowing again, turning us around toward the shore. The strong ocean wind blows heavily against my face, causing my hair to fly behind me. It's a thrilling sensation. I gaze out at the black water swelling up and down. The salty sea air relaxes me more and more with every breath I take. I close my eyes and breathe deeper. It's moments like this that I just know the world is good somehow. I open my eyes to find Jack gazing at me with a dazzling smile on his face. Tell me something, Sara, he says. His tone is back to light and cheerful now. How does one manage to be a doctor and a dancer? I laugh lightly. I'm surprised how easily I'm able to laugh with him now. I'm not actually a doctor yet, and I'm not really a dancer anymore. Jack rolls his eyes and barks out a laugh. Really? You're not a dancer? Have you forgotten how many dancing men were crawling all over you and clamoring for your attention tonight? I was watching you the entire time, he says, looking a little embarrassed he admitted that last part. I blush deeply, not knowing whether or not to acknowledge it or hide my face. That has nothing to do with me being a dancer, I protest. Then I realize the implication of what I said and blush even more. Yes, but, Jack starts to say, but bursts out another laugh as he realizes it too. Well, at least you know they were all over you, he laughs. That's good. He continues to laugh freely, and even through my embarrassment I can't help but join him. Come on, I chortle. It wasn't really like that. Are you kidding? He says, his grin as wide as ever. Everywhere I turned, people were asking about the lady dancer in the red dress. He lets out another laugh and then stops as his eyes rest on mine again. He still has that glowing smile on his face, but his tone is serious. You were fascinating, Sara. That's what I'm trying to say. This is too much. If I blush any more, I will keel over. I put my face in my hands, not knowing what else to do. Why are you doing that? Says Jack. Because, I mumble into my hands, I blush so easily. Even when I'm not embarrassed, I blush. It's so embarrassing. Jack laughs another glorious laugh. I am not trying to embarrass you. I'm just telling you the truth. Now come on, let's get out of the boat. And that concludes chapter 20. I hope you liked it. I hope you come back for more flirting of Jack and Sara. And other things next Thursday in chapter 21, which is called Truth or Dare. And most likely I will also stick in chapter 22 because they're both very short. Chapter 22 is called Almost Perfect. If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.